The night opens gently, like a curtain parting to reveal the hush of dawn. The listener is invited to rest deeply, to let the body sink into comfort, and to allow the mind to slow its restless wanderings. A soft breeze seems to pass through the imagination, carrying with it the fragrance of pine and the faint sweetness of incense, as though a hidden temple lies just beyond the senses. The journey begins not with urgency, not with sharp revelation, but with quiet steps into stillness. The breath is the guide here. Inhale, the chest expands gently, cool air filling the hollow spaces of the body. Exhale, warmth drifts outward, carrying tension and noise away. Each cycle becomes longer, smoother, a soft rhythm that calms the heart. The listener is reminded to let each breath flow like ripples across water, slow and unbroken, steady and tender. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. The words drift like a whisper, gentle and unhurried, asking nothing more than sincerity. There's no pressure, only an invitation, and then another, softer still. Comment where you're listening from and what time it is for you. These small gestures, like tiny lanterns along a path, connect listener to storyteller, presence to presence, across distances and time zones. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's drift into tonight's meditation together. The imagery deepens. The listener imagines entering a quiet hall lit by candles flickering against ancient stone. The air is cool, but not cold. It carries the hush of centuries, the silence of devotion. Here, the Buddhist path unfolds like a scroll, opening slowly, carefully, revealing the secret of suffering and the promise of freedom. The gentle thought arises: suffering is not a flaw, not a punishment, not a sign of weakness. It is a thread woven into the fabric of human life, something shared by every heart that has ever breathed. The listener feels this truth not as heaviness, but as recognition, as though their own quiet aches are understood, reflected, and held. The body responds. The shoulders soften, the jaw releases, the chest grows lighter. The hollow inside, that ache that whispers something is missing, begins to quiet, not vanish, but ease, as though it has been seen and acknowledged. The narrator whispers, "Remember this beginning. You are safe to rest. Just breathe." Drifting deeper now. The hall of candles stretches into silence, the flame of each candle steady as a star. The listener rests at the threshold of the path, ready to step gently into the Buddhist secret to ending suffering, carried by breath, by stillness, by the calm rhythm of the night. The breath steadies, a soft current moving in and out, guiding the listener deeper into calm. The body grows heavier against the surface beneath, while the mind begins to soften its grip on thought. Now the journey shifts gently toward seeing the roots of suffering, the tender beginning of the Buddha's teaching, not as a harsh truth, but as a compassionate reminder that every ache has a cause, and every cause can be understood. The listener is invited to imagine standing beneath a great tree at twilight. Its roots twist deep into the earth, unseen yet powerful, holding the entire trunk upright. Suffering, too, has roots, often hidden, often subtle, yet feeding the visible ache of the heart. Inhale. The awareness turns inward, noticing the subtle tensions, the quiet ache of longing. Exhale. The body softens, releasing the grip of holding so tightly to what cannot last. The first root is craving, the restless whisper that says, "If I only had this, I would be complete." The second is aversion, the push against discomfort, the unwillingness to allow life to unfold as it is. The third is ignorance, the forgetting of truth, the veil that hides the simple reality of impermanence. These roots are not punishments. They are simply part of being human, threads woven into the mind. The imagery expands. The listener pictures the roots of the great tree reaching through dark soil, winding around stones, moving silently in their search for nourishment. Some roots are thick, obvious. Others are fine, delicate, invisible unless seen with care. The hollowness within the listener is like this soil, sometimes heavy, sometimes but always capable of being understood, always capable of nourishing wisdom. A Buddhist reflection arises. Some believe suffering is a sign of failure, a personal flaw to be hidden. Others know suffering is universal, shared by all beings. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They understand that to feel the ache is not to be broken. It is to be alive, to be human, to be part of the great web of existence. The body responds in recognition. The shoulders grow heavier, sinking into stillness. The chest loosens, allowing breath to move freely. The hollow inside feels seen, no longer hidden in shadow, but illuminated gently like roots touched by candlelight. The narrator whispers, "Remember the roots beneath the tree. They explain the ache, but they do not define you. Just breathe. It's safe to notice, drifting deeper now." The twilight deepens around the tree, stars shimmering above as the roots rest below. The listener feels steadier, calmer, more at ease with the truth that suffering has causes, and that those causes can be seen, understood, and one day released. And so, the listener drifts further inward, guided by breath and presence, into the soft unveiling of suffering's roots. The breath flows gently, carrying the listener deeper into the heart of the teaching. Now the mind turns softly toward the first noble truth, the truth of suffering, or dukkha. It is not a harsh decree, not a grim sentence, but a compassionate acknowledgement. Life, in its ordinary form, carries a thread of unsatisfactoriness woven through it. Inhale, awareness expands, accepting this truth without resistance. Exhale, the body softens, no longer needing to deny what is already known deep inside. The breath itself teaches. No inhale can last forever. No exhale can be held indefinitely. All is fleeting. All is changing. All carries both sweetness and ache. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a serene garden at dusk. Blossoms sway gently, their fragrance delicate, their petals soft. Yet some petals have already begun to fall, drifting to the ground like quiet reminders. The beauty of the garden is real, but so is its impermanence. To love the bloom is also to face the falling. This is the nature of dukkha. Every joy carries the seed of its ending. A Buddhist reflection arises. Suffering appears in many forms. There is the suffering of pain, when the body aches or the heart breaks. There is the suffering of change, when what is cherished cannot stay. And there is the suffering of conditioned existence itself, the quiet unease that nothing, however bright, can fully satisfy the restless mind. The listener is reminded gently that this truth is not meant to sadden, but to awaken. Just as a doctor must name the illness before healing begins, so too did the Buddha name suffering as the first step toward freedom. By acknowledging dukkha, one begins to loosen the fear that arises from it. The body responds in quiet understanding. The chest feels softer, the shoulders more relaxed, the jaw unclenches. The hollow within feels less like an enemy and more like a teacher. Whispering softly, "See me, know me, and I will guide you toward release." The narrator whispers, "Remember this first noble truth. To see suffering is the first step to ending it. Just breathe. It's safe to know. Drifting deeper now." The garden darkens as night falls, stars appearing one by one above the blossoms. The fallen petals rest gently on the earth, not as loss, but as part of the cycle. The listener sits quietly within this truth, realizing that to name suffering is not to be defeated, but to prepare the heart for freedom. And so, with the first noble truth held softly in awareness, the listener drifts deeper. Guided by breath and the calm light of understanding, the breath deepens, moving slowly like a calm river under moonlight. The listener is guided now into the ache of craving, the restless pull that keeps suffering alive. It begins as a whisper, "If I just had this, if I could only be that, then I would be whole." Yet when the object is gained, the satisfaction slips away, and the whisper returns, louder than before. Inhale. Awareness notices this craving without judgment. Exhale. The grip softens, like opening a hand that is clenched too tightly. Each breath becomes a lesson, showing the listener that peace is found not in holding more tightly, but in learning to let go. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines standing by a stream, watching leaves float by. One leaf catches the eye, bright, golden, beautiful. The hand reaches to grasp it, but as soon as it is caught, the leaf crumbles, leaving only fragments. Another leaf drifts by, then another, each one promising fulfillment yet dissolving upon capture. The craving is endless, a current that never stops. But when the hand withdraws, resting gently at the side, the stream itself becomes beautiful, and peace is restored. A Buddhist teaching arises. Craving, or tanha, is the root of suffering. It is not only desire for possessions, but also the thirst for experience, for identity, for permanence. The Buddha saw clearly that craving binds the heart to dissatisfaction, like a flame that consumes without end. The reflection deepens. Some believe happiness is always just one desire away, one achievement, one relationship, one possession. Others discover that happiness is found when the thirst itself is quieted, when the mind rests in enoughness. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that craving does not need to be fought or shamed, only seen and released. The body responds with ease. The shoulders drop, the chest feels lighter, the belly softens. The hollow inside no longer feels like an unfillable void. It feels like a space that can breathe, a space that is complete when craving loosens its hold. The narrator whispers, "Remember this ache of craving. It cannot be filled by grasping. Just breathe. It's safe to release, drifting deeper now." The stream continues to flow, leaves drifting by in their own rhythm. The listener watches without needing to reach, content in simply seeing the beauty of movement. The hollow softens, filled not by possessions or promises, but by presence itself. And so, with the ache of craving gently released, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the peace of letting go. The breath flows with gentle rhythm, steady and calm, and the listener is guided into the teaching of impermanence as teacher. So much of suffering arises from forgetting this truth, that all things change, that nothing remains exactly as it is. When the heart clings, the hollow inside deepens, for what is held will one day slip away. Yet impermanence is not a curse. It is the gentle rhythm of life. The reason blossoms bloom, rivers flow, dawn returns. Inhale, the body welcomes the coolness of change. Exhale, the mind releases the need to hold on. Each cycle of breath becomes a reminder. This, too, is passing, and that is its beauty. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting beneath a great cherry tree in spring. Blossoms drift downward in soft showers, covering the ground in pale pink. Each petal is delicate, brief, unable to remain. And yet the falling is not sorrowful. It is graceful, natural, serene. The hollow within begins to understand. It aches not because change exists, but because it resists the falling petals. A Buddhist teaching arises. Impermanence, or anicca, is one of the three marks of existence. To forget impermanence is to cling. To embrace it is to live with open hands, grateful for each moment, at peace with its passing. A reflection surfaces. Some say security is found in making things last forever. Others know true security is found in flowing with change, bowing to its rhythm. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They begin to see the hollow space not as proof of loss, but as space made ready for the new. The body responds in surrender. The shoulders release downward. The chest opens. The breath grows deeper. Muscles soften, as though yielding to time itself. The hollow within no longer feels like something broken, but like a field ready to receive each season. The narrator whispers, "Remember this teaching of impermanence. Nothing is lost. Everything transforms. Just breathe. It's safe to flow, drifting deeper now." The blossoms continue to fall, covering the earth like a soft blanket. The tree stands quiet, bare branches soon to be filled with green leaves. The listener rests beneath it, realizing that impermanence is not the enemy, but the very reason beauty exists. And so, with impermanence as their teacher, the listener drifts deeper, learning to see the hollow not as absence, but as space where life continues to unfold. The breath moves like a soft tide, rising and falling in calm rhythm. The listener is now invited to explore the web of attachment, the unseen threads that bind the heart to people, things, and identities. At first, attachment feels like safety, like holding tightly to what is cherished. But when the threads are pulled too tightly, suffering follows, for nothing can be held forever. Inhale. Awareness notices the pull of clinging. Exhale. The grip loosens gently, like a hand opening to release what it cannot keep. Each breath becomes a soft practice of freedom, reminding the listener that love need not mean possession, and care need not mean control. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines standing before a spider's web in the morning light. Dew clings to each thread, shimmering like jewels. At first, it seems delicate and beautiful. But the more the web is touched, the more entangled one becomes. The harder it is to move freely. The hollow inside is like this entanglement, an ache born from trying to hold too tightly to what was never meant to stay. A Buddhist teaching arises. Attachment, or upadana, is the flame that keeps suffering alive. It is not love itself, but the fear of losing love. Not joy itself, but the fear of its passing. The Buddha taught that true freedom is found not by refusing to care, but by caring without clinging, loving openly, letting life flow, and allowing what comes to come and what goes to go. A reflection surfaces. Some believe happiness requires holding everything close, never letting go. Others discover that happiness blooms when the hands are open, when relationships, possessions, and even self-image are allowed to move like clouds across the sky. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow ache eases not by clinging harder, but by releasing gently. The body responds with ease. The chest feels lighter. The shoulders soften. The belly expands with each breath. The hollow inside no longer feels suffocating, but spacious, as though the tangled web has loosened into open air. The narrator whispers, "Remember this web of attachment. You do not need to be trapped. Just breathe. It's safe to release, drifting deeper now. The web fades into morning mist, the dew dissolving as sunlight spreads across the horizon. The listener rests in this clarity, realizing that freedom is not coldness or detachment, but warmth without fear, love without grasping. The hollow inside feels less like a prison and more like an open field, wide and welcoming. And so, with the web of attachment gently dissolved, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the quiet joy of open hands. The breath flows evenly, like wind moving softly through tall grass. And the listener is guided now into the second noble truth, the gentle uncovering of the origin of suffering. The Buddha taught that suffering does not appear without reason. It blooms from specific causes, like a tree sprouting from hidden seeds. To see these causes clearly is to begin loosening their hold. Inhale. Awareness turns inward, noticing the cravings and aversions that rise within. Exhale. The body releases, as though setting down weights it no longer needs to carry. Each breath becomes a lantern, illuminating the hidden roots of the ache. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a quiet garden at night. Beneath the soil, seeds stir, unseen yet alive. Some seeds are wholesome: compassion, kindness, patience. Others are unwholesome: greed, fear, grasping, anger. When watered, each seed grows. The hollow within often swells when the seeds of craving and ignorance are nourished, crowding out the softer sprouts of peace. A Buddhist teaching arises. The second noble truth points to tanha, thirst. It is the endless wanting for pleasure, for existence, for things to be other than they are. This thirst binds the mind, keeping it restless, keeping the heart unfulfilled. Yet the Buddha offered this teaching not to condemn, but to reassure. If suffering has a cause, it can also have an end. A reflection surfaces. Some believe pain is random, unexplainable, cruel. Others realize pain has roots, and roots can be seen, understood, and released. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow ache is not proof of failure. It is simply the sign of seeds watered too long in thirst. The body responds with recognition. The chest softens, the shoulders ease, the breath flows smoother. The hollow inside no longer feels mysterious or frightening. It feels explainable, a garden that can be tended with care. The narrator whispers, "Remember this second noble truth. To know the cause is to begin the cure. Just breathe. It's safe to see, drifting deeper now." The garden glimmers under moonlight, small sprouts pushing through the soil. The listener realizes they hold the choice of which seeds to water, which roots to nourish, which garden to grow. The hollow inside feels less like barren ground and more like soil waiting for mindful tending. And so, with the second noble truth resting gently in the heart, the listener drifts deeper, guided by the breath, soothed by the possibility of release. The breath steadies, flowing in quiet rhythm, and the listener is guided now into the gentle practice of mindful breathing, the very doorway through which the Buddha himself found calm. Craving and suffering may swirl like restless winds, but the breath is always here, steady and faithful, a lantern in the dark. Inhale. The body fills with cool, nourishing air. Exhale. Warmth flows outward, carrying strain and mdamawe. Each cycle becomes a cradle, rocking the listener into stillness, whispering, "This moment is enough." The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting at the edge of a still pond. Each inhale is like a pebble dropped gently into the water, sending ripples outward. Each exhale is like the pond's return to glassy calm. The hollow within begins to echo less with longing and more with presence, as though the breath itself is filling the emptiness with quiet light. A Buddhist teaching arises. Mindfulness of breathing, or anapanasati, is one of the simplest yet most profound practices. By watching the breath, one watches life itself, impermanent, flowing, intimate. Craving loses its power when the heart rests fully in the rise and fall of breath. A reflection surfaces. Some believe peace requires solving every problem, filling every hollow. Others discover peace arises naturally when the mind returns to the breath, the simplest truth of existence. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They learn that emptiness need not be fought. It only needs to be breathed through, gently, patiently. The body responds with ease. The chest expands and releases without force. The shoulders rest heavy. The belly softens. The jaw unclenches. The hollow space inside no longer feels sharp. It feels like a vessel being filled and emptied with each breath, spacious yet allied. The narrator whispers, "Remember this mindful breathing. It is your anchor, always. Just breathe." It's safe to return, drifting deeper now. The pond reflects the night sky, ripples fading into stillness. Stars shimmer above, mirrored in the water, reminding the listener that presence itself is luminous. They rest here, breath after breath, realizing that mindfulness of breathing is not just a practice, it is a home. And so, with mindful breathing as their companion, the listener drifts deeper, carried by the steady tide of life itself. The breath moves slowly, like waves touching the shore, guiding the listener toward the third noble truth, the truth of cessation. If suffering has a cause, then suffering can also have an end. This teaching does not promise a life without difficulty, but it offers a vision of freedom, of peace, of a heart no longer bound by craving. Inhale. The chest expands with quiet hope. Exhale. The body releases heaviness, as though laying down burdens carried too long. Each cycle whispers softly. Freedom is possible. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines a sky long covered by storm clouds. Rain lashes down, Winds stir restlessly, shadows weigh heavily. Yet slowly, gently, the storm passes. Clouds break apart, and light streams through, golden and pure. The air is fresh, the earth renewed, the silence after rain profound. The hollow within feels this, not as emptiness, but as openness, a calm space untouched by storm. A Buddhist teaching arises, nirodha, cessation. When craving ceases, suffering ceases. This is not escape, but liberation. It is like a fire that burns only as long as fuel is offered. Remove the fuel, and the flame extinguishes naturally. In the same way, when craving is released, the restless fire of suffering fades, leaving only coolness, clarity, peace. A reflection surfaces. Some believe suffering is endless, a fate that cannot be changed. Others know that when the cause is released, the effect dissolves. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They begin to sense that the hollow ache does not define them. It can soften, it can end, it can open into freedom. The body responds with calm. The breath is unhurried, shoulders sink deeper, muscles melt into rest. The hollow inside no longer feels like an endless void. It feels like a sky after rain, wide and clear, capable of holding light. The narrator whispers, "Remember this third noble truth. Suffering can cease. Just breathe. It's safe to hope." Drifting deeper now. The stormed sky has cleared completely, stars glittering above, the moon glowing in serenity. The listener rests beneath it, their heart lighter, their mind calmer, touched by the promise that peace is not far away. It is already here, waiting. And so, with the third noble truth illuminating the path, the listener drifts deeper, guided by the gentle promise of freedom from suffering. The breath flows like a quiet stream, unhurried and calm. And the listener is guided now into the gentle discovery of the middle way, the path of balance the Buddha himself walked after years of extremes. He had known indulgence, and he had known harsh denial, and neither had brought freedom. Only balance opened the gate to peace. Inhale, the body welcomes harmony. Exhale, tension melts, extremes dissolve. Each breath becomes a reminder that serenity is found not in excess, not in deprivation, but in the quiet center between. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking along a forest trail at twilight. To the left lies a steep cliff, dangerous and sharp. To the right, a swamp of thick mud that swallows each step. Only the middle path, steady, winding gently through the trees, offers safety and peace. As the listener walks, the hollow within begins to ease, soothed by the steady rhythm of balance. A Buddhist teaching arises. The middle way, or Majjhima Patipada, is not about avoidance, but about wisdom. To live without grasping at pleasure and without punishing denial is to live with gentle moderation. This balance allows joy to bloom naturally, without fear, without excess. A reflection surfaces. Some believe happiness lies in chasing every desire. Others believe it lies in rejecting all pleasure. But tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. Happiness rests in the balance between, in living with enough, in walking calmly where the ground is steady. The body responds in harmony. The shoulders rest evenly. The chest rises and falls with balance. The breath flows without strain. The hollow inside no longer feels like a tug of war between extremes. It feels like a quiet field where stillness and movement exist together. The narrator whispers, "Remember this middle way. You do not need extremes to be whole. Just breathe. It's safe to walk gently, drifting deeper now." The forest grows darker, yet the path glows faintly, lit by fireflies that hover like tiny lanterns. The listener continues forward, step by step, calm and unhurried, discovering that peace is not found at the edges, but along the gentle, steady way. And so, with the middle way as guide, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the balance of body, mind, and breath. The breath deepens, slow and steady, as though carrying the listener forward to a luminous threshold. Here unfolds the fourth noble truth, the path that leads to the end of suffering. It is not a single step, but a gentle way of living, known as the Noble Eightfold Path, a lantern of guidance lighting the way through darkness. Inhale. The body fills with calm possibility. Exhale. The mind releases doubt, opening to trust. Each breath becomes a step along this ancient path, soft and sure, leading toward peace. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines standing at the beginning of a quiet forest trail. Along the path, lanterns glow in 8 places, each casting warm light into the shadows. These lanterns are not demands, not rules to be obeyed, but gentle companions, reminders of clarity, intention, compassion, and mindfulness. The hollow inside begins to feel less empty, as though these lights are filling it with warmth. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Eightfold Path is divided into 3 streams: wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental cultivation. Together, they weave a way of living that loosens craving and nurtures freedom. It is not something to achieve in a single night, but something to walk slowly, breath by breath, moment by moment. A reflection surfaces. Some believe peace is found in distant heavens, far from ordinary life. Others discover peace is found here, in daily steps of clarity, kindness, and awareness. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that freedom is not an escape from life, but a way of walking through it. The body responds with quiet strength. The chest feels open, the spine long yet relaxed, the breath steady as a heartbeat. The hollow inside no longer feels abandoned. It feels accompanied, guided by lights that have burned for centuries. The narrator whispers, "Remember this fourth noble truth. The path is here, step by step. Just breathe. It's safe to follow, drifting deeper now. The forest is hushed, but the lanterns glow warmly along the trail. The listener rests in their light, sensing that each one will reveal itself in time. The path stretches gently forward, promising not sudden escape, but steady freedom with every step. And so, with the fourth noble truth as a guiding light, the listener drifts deeper, carried by breath and the soft radiance of the path ahead. The breath flows smoothly, rising and falling like waves against a quiet shore. The listener is guided now into the first steps of the eightfold path: right view and right intention. These are the roots of wisdom, the gentle beginning of walking the way toward freedom. Inhale. The body opens to clarity. Exhale. The mind releases confusion and rests in calm. Each breath becomes a window, revealing how life truly is, not as the mind imagines it, but as it is in its tender truth. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines standing at the edge of a clear mountain lake at dawn. Mist rises softly from the water, but as the sun appears, the mist dissolves, and the lake reflects the sky with perfect clarity. This is right view, seeing that all things are impermanent, that suffering arises with craving, and that release is possible. The hollow inside begins to clear, like mist lifting, showing the open waters beneath. Then comes right intention, the gentle resolve to walk with kindness, with compassion, with renunciation of harmful grasping. The listener imagines planting seeds along the path, each one holding the intention to do no harm, to live gently, to grow in understanding. With each breath, these seeds sprout, and the path becomes lined with green shoots of compassion. A Buddhist teaching arises. Right view is the map, showing the way. Right intention is the heart's commitment to follow it. Without them, the path is blurred. With them, every step is luminous. A reflection surfaces. Some believe wisdom must be vast, complicated, found in books and rituals. Others discover wisdom begins simply, in seeing clearly and intending kindness. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They realize the hollow inside can be softened not with endless answers, but with clarity and gentle resolve. The body responds with alignment. The chest feels lifted, the shoulders relaxed, the breath even and smooth. The hollow space no longer feels lost in fog. It feels like a lake reflecting the sky, open and luminous. The narrator whispers, "Remember right view and right intention. They are your first steps. Just breathe. It's safe to see clearly, drifting deeper now." The mountain lake shimmers beneath the rising sun, mist dissolving into light. The listener rests here, calm and steady, ready to walk further along the path, guided by clarity of sight and the tenderness of intention. And so, with wisdom as their compass, the listener drifts deeper, carried by breath and the soft unfolding of the path. The breath moves with a gentle cadence, steady and calm, carrying the listener deeper into the stream of the eightfold path. Now the journey turns toward right speech and right action, the way of living gently with others, softening the edges of suffering through kindness and restraint. Inhale. The heart fills with the possibility of compassion. Exhale. Tension releases, and the mind rests in peace. Each breath becomes a reminder that words and deeds ripple outward, shaping the world just as wind shapes water. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting by a riverbank. Every word spoken is like a stone dropped into the water, sending ripples across the surface. Harsh words disturb the calm, scattering fish and muddying the current. Gentle words, spoken with care, create ripples that shimmer softly in the light. This is right speech, to speak truthfully, mindfully, and at the right time. The hollow inside begins to soften as the listener realizes that words can either deepen wounds or bring healing. The path continues. Right action is the gentle discipline of aligning deeds with compassion. The listener imagines walking barefoot on soft earth, leaving prints behind. Each step matters, for it marks the ground. When steps are taken with kindness, refraining from harm, respecting life, honoring honesty, the earth seems to welcome the weight, cradling each footprint in peace. A Buddhist teaching arises. Words and deeds are bridges. When they are careless, they collapse. When they are mindful, they connect hearts across the hollows of loneliness and pain. A reflection surfaces. Some believe kindness requires great sacrifices, grand gestures. Others discover kindness is woven into small things. A gentle word, a compassionate step, a refusal to cause harm. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They sense the hollow within, fill with the light of care, simple and profound. The body responds with ease. The chest feels warm, the shoulders lighter, the breath flowing like a river. The hollow no longer feels like isolation. It feels like a space being bridged by compassion, a meeting place between self and others. The narrator whispers, "Remember right speech and right action. They shape the world around you. Just breathe. It's safe to walk gently, drifting deeper now." The river flows calmly under the moonlight, each ripple glowing like silver threads. Footsteps along the bank fade softly into the distance, leaving behind a path of quiet harmony. The listener rests here, realizing that peace is not only for themselves, but for all touched by their words and actions. And so, with the guidance of speech and action rooted in compassion, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the embrace of gentle conduct. The breath settles into a steady rhythm, soft and grounding, as the listener is guided further along the eightfold path. Now the journey turns to right livelihood, the practice of living in harmony with values, finding ways of sustenance that do not deepen suffering, but instead nourish peace. Inhale. The body receives what is wholesome. exhale, the mind releases what is harmful. Each breath becomes a reminder that how one lives and how one earns can either bind the heart or free it. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines tending a small garden at dawn. Each seed planted is like a choice in livelihood. Some grow into nourishing vegetables and fragrant flowers, are feeding and delighting without harm. Others, if planted carelessly, grow into thorny vines that choke the soil. The hollow within begins to ease as the listener realizes their life too is a garden, one that flourishes when choices align with compassion. A Buddhist teaching arises. Right livelihood is not merely about work, but about integrity. It means avoiding trades that harm beings, dealing in weapons, exploitation, or deceit, and instead seeking ways of living that foster kindness, fairness, and healing. Even small acts of honest, compassionate work become a practice of the path. A reflection surfaces. Some believe fulfillment lies in wealth alone, no matter the means. Others know fulfillment lies in harmony, where one's way of living does not betray the heart. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow inside begins to heal when daily life reflects their deepest values. The body responds with relief. The shoulders soften. The chest feels light. The breath deepens. The hollow no longer feels like a void of meaning. It feels like fertile soil, capable of growing peace when tended with integrity. The narrator whispers, "Remember right livelihood. Let your life be in harmony. Just breathe. It's safe to live gently, drifting deeper now." The garden brightens as the sun rises higher, blossoms opening, soil warm underfoot. The listener feels themselves walking between rows of life they have chosen with care, surrounded by growth that brings no harm. Each step is steady, each breath aligned with peace, and so, with right livelihood as their guide, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the quiet joy of living in harmony with their values. The breath flows in long, gentle currents, carrying the listener deeper into stillness. Now the journey turns toward right effort, the steady, balanced energy that sustains the path. It is not force, not harsh striving, but the soft, consistent tending of the heart, like a flame that is kept alive through gentle care. Inhale. The body gathers calm strength. Exhale. The mind releases the weight of struggle. Each breath becomes a reminder that effort can be light, sustained, and kind. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a quiet field at dusk, lantern in hand. The flame flickers but does not die, because the hand shields it gently from the wind. This is right effort, not burning out in forceful striving, nor neglecting the flame into darkness, but holding it steadily, protecting it, nurturing it with balance. The hollow within begins to ease as the listener realizes that healing comes not from extremes, but from small, steady acts of care. A Buddhist teaching arises. Right effort means guarding the mind, not feeding unwholesome states, encouraging wholesome ones, and gently cultivating awareness. It is like tending a garden. Weeds are pulled with patience. Seeds of kindness are watered daily. Blossoms are protected from storm. Over time, the garden thrives, not because of frantic labor, but because of steady presence. A reflection surfaces. Some believe freedom comes only through relentless struggle, exhausting oneself into discipline. Others discover freedom grows through gentle perseverance, like water shaping stone. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow inside can be softened by consistent, tender attention, not harsh force. The body responds with harmony. The chest feels steady, the breath even, the muscles soft yet strong. The hollow no longer feels like a heavy void. It feels like a small flame being tended, warm and alive. The narrator whispers, "Remember this right effort. Care for your flame without force. Just breathe. It's safe to go gently, drifting deeper now." The lantern glows brighter against the darkening sky, the flame steady within its glass. The listener walks onward, feeling guided by its warmth, realizing that even in the vast night, a single steady light is enough to illuminate the way. And so, with right effort carried gently in their steps, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the strength of steady, balanced care. The breath slows into a calm rhythm, steady as the tide, guiding the listener into the practice of right mindfulness, the art of being fully present in each moment, awake to body, feelings, and mind. Mindfulness is not effortful watching, but gentle noticing, like opening a window to let in fresh air. Inhale. Awareness rests on the rising chest. Exhale. Awareness lingers on the soft release. Each breath becomes an anchor, returning the wandering mind to now. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a quiet bamboo grove. Each step presses lightly into the earth. Each sound of rustling leaves is noticed. Each shaft of sunlight felt on the skin. Nothing is overlooked, yet nothing is clung to. This is right mindfulness, to be here, fully, without drifting into the regrets of yesterday or the dreams of tomorrow. The hollow within begins to soften, no longer echoing with absence, but filled gently with presence. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha spoke of the 4 foundations of mindfulness: the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. To notice the breath, to observe sensations, to watch thoughts as they arise and pass. This is to dwell in awareness, where wisdom ripens naturally. A reflection surfaces. Some believe mindfulness is about control, forcing the mind to behave. Others discover mindfulness is about release, watching gently, without judgment, allowing things to be as they are. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow ache eases when the mind rests in presence, no longer chasing or resisting. The body responds with calm. The shoulders sink lower, the chest feels open, the breath is steady. The hollow no longer feels restless. It feels like a bamboo grove in morning light, spacious, alive, quietly serene. The narrator whispers, "Remember right mindfulness. Presence is your refuge. Just breathe. It's safe to rest here, drifting deeper now." The bamboo sways gently in the wind, shafts of light shifting across the path. The listener rests within this grove, feeling that each breath, each sound, each sensation, gift, present. The path ahead is clearer now, illuminated not by striving, but by awareness itself. And so, with right mindfulness as their companion, the listener drifts deeper, held in the embrace of presence. The breath deepens, long and unbroken, guiding the listener into the practice of right concentration. The settling of the mind into calm focus, steady as a flame untouched by wind. Where mindfulness opens awareness to all that arises, concentration gathers it gently into stillness, allowing the heart to rest in peace. Inhale. The mind grows quiet, like ripples fading on a pond. Exhale. Awareness steadies, like a candle glowing in still air. Each breath becomes a soft thread, weaving attention into one pointed calm. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting within a quiet temple, a single candle burning before them. At first, the flame flickers with each movement of air, but as the hall grows still, the flame steadies, glowing tall and unwavering. This is right concentration, the mind no longer scattered by craving or thought, but resting with serenity. The hollow within begins to feel less restless, filled instead with luminous calm. A Buddhist teaching arises. Right concentration points to samadhi, states of deep absorption where the mind unifies. The Buddha taught that when the mind is trained to settle, it becomes a fertile ground for wisdom, no longer tossed by restlessness or fear. It is not escape, but clarity. The peace of a lake reflecting the moon without distortion. A reflection surfaces. Some believe peace is found in distraction, in filling the mind with noise. Others discover peace is found in focus, in letting the mind rest deeply in one place. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow inside can be soothed not by endless movement, but by stillness. The body responds with serenity. The shoulders feel steady. The chest rises and falls without effort. The breath lengthens into ease. The hollow space feels luminous now, like the temple hall filled with candlelight, quiet and complete. The narrator whispers, "Remember right concentration. Steadiness is your refuge. Just breathe. It's safe to rest deeply, drifting deeper now." The temple remains hushed, shadows soft, the candle burning without tremor. The listener rests before it, their own mind mirroring its calm flame. The night feels timeless, the hollow inside transformed into a chamber of stillness where nothing is missing. And so, With right concentration illuminating the heart, the listener drifts deeper, resting in unshaken calm. The breath slows into a gentle, steady tide, guiding the listener into a deeper reflection. The release of self-clinging. Much of suffering arises from the illusion of a fixed self, the belief that I must be protected, built, defended, and preserved. Yet the Buddha taught that the self is not a solid thing, but a collection of flowing conditions, always changing, never bound. Inhale, awareness softens around the thought of me. Exhale, the body releases the need to hold identity so tightly. Each breath becomes a gentle dissolving, showing that freedom lies not in strengthening the self, but in letting its boundaries loosen. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines gazing at a river at twilight. At first, the mind says this is the same river as yesterday, as always, yet the water flows, never the same, always new, always passing. The self is like this river, made of thoughts, memories, sensations, all flowing, none permanent. The hollow within begins to feel lighter, as though its walls have dissolved into open current. A Buddhist teaching arises, the doctrine of anatta, non-self. To cling to I and mine is to suffer when change inevitably arrives. But when the illusion is seen clearly, suffering loosens and compassion grows, for one no longer guards the fortress of self so fiercely. A reflection surfaces. Some believe identity is a solid stone, unchanging and absolute. Others discover it is like a flame, dependent on fuel, yet never the same from moment to moment. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow inside is not a flaw in the self. It is a window showing that the self is never fixed, always open to flow. The body responds with spaciousness. The chest feels wide. The breath moves freely. The muscles soften. The hollow within no longer feels like a wound. It feels like a riverbed through which awareness flows, wide and serene. The narrator whispers, "Remember this teaching of non-self. You are not fixed. Just breathe. It's safe to flow, drifting deeper now." The river glimmers beneath moonlight, carrying reflections of stars upon its surface. The listener rests at its edge, realizing they are not separate from its flow. They are the current itself, never trapped, always moving, always free. And so, with the release of self-clinging, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the vastness of openness. The breath moves softly, steady as a lullaby, carrying the listener into the warmth of the compassionate heart. If non-self loosens the walls of separation, compassion flows naturally through the open space, connecting one being to another, like rivers meeting in the sea. Compassion is not sentiment or duty. It is the gentle recognition that all beings suffer, just as we do, and that kindness eases the weight for all. Inhale. The heart fills with tender awareness. Exhale. The mind releases judgment and hard edges. Each breath becomes a soft offering. May I be at peace. May others be at peace. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines holding a small candle in their hands. Its flame glows warmly, steady, and bright. Then they see other figures around them, each carrying their own candles, some flickering weakly, some nearly extinguished by winds of hardship. As the listener brings their flame close, the others rekindle, one by one, until the hall glows with shared light. The hollow within begins to feel full, warmed by the knowledge that giving light does not diminish one's own, but multiplies it. A Buddhist teaching arises. Compassion, or karuna, is one of the four immeasurables, alongside loving kindness, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. To cultivate compassion is to let the heart soften, to feel with others, to wish for their freedom from suffering. When the illusion of a separate self fades, compassion flows naturally, like water following gravity. A reflection surfaces. Some believe strength is built by closing the heart, by standing apart from the pain of others. Others know true strength is revealed in opening the heart, in bearing the weight together, in kindness that costs nothing, yet heals everything. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They discover that the hollow inside can be warmed and filled by the gentle fire of compassion. The body responds with ease. The chest feels warm. The breath flows smoothly. The shoulders soften. The hollow no longer feels cold or empty. It feels like a hearth, glowing gently, sustaining warmth that extends outward. The narrator whispers, "Remember this compassionate heart. Its warmth belongs to you and to all. Just breathe. It's safe to open, drifting deeper now." The hall of candles glows brighter, shadows fading into soft radiance. The listener rests here, surrounded by warmth, their own heart steady and tender, realizing that compassion is not only a gift to others, but the balm that heals their own inner ache. And so, with compassion blooming quietly within, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the embrace of shared light. The breath flows slowly, like a gentle tide washing against the shore, and the listener is guided into the practice of forgiveness, a freedom that comes not from erasing the past, but from loosening the grip it holds upon the heart. So much of suffering lingers because of old wounds, memories replayed, words unhealed. Yet forgiveness, tender and patient, is like setting down heavy stones carried too far. Inhale. The body welcomes the possibility of release. Exhale. The heart lets go, little by little, like sand slipping through open hands. Each breath becomes an act of freedom, not erasing what was, but softening its weight. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines standing beside a wide, flowing river. In their hands, they carry stones, each one etched with memories of hurt, disappointment, betrayal. At first, the weight seems necessary, almost protective. But as the hands grow heavy, the listener is invited to place the stones, one by one, into the river. The current carries them away, not with anger, but with gentleness. The hollow within begins to feel lighter, less burdened, more spacious. A Buddhist teaching arises. To forgive is not to approve of harm, nor to forget it. It is to cease drinking the poison of resentment. The Buddha likened anger to holding a burning coal, wishing to throw it at another, but the one who holds it is the one burned. Forgiveness is the cooling of the hand, the release of the coal, the soothing balm for one's own suffering. A reflection surfaces. Some believe forgiveness is weakness, giving power to the one who harmed. Others know forgiveness is strength, a freedom that belongs only to the one who releases. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that forgiveness is not for the pato, but for the present, a way of softening the hollow ache that clings to old wounds. The body responds with relief. The chest expands more freely. The shoulders feel lighter. The breath deepens. The hollow inside no longer feels weighed down. It feels like a riverbank, wide and open, nourished by the flowing current. The narrator whispers, "Remember this practice of forgiveness. It is for your freedom. Just breathe. It's safe to release, drifting deeper now." The river glimmers under the moonlight, carrying stones downstream until they vanish from sight. The listener rests by its edge, hands open, heart unburdened, realizing that to forgive is not to erase, but to let life move forward without carrying the weight of yesterday. And so, with forgiveness flowing like a river, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the ease of release. The breath flows like a gentle breeze across an open field, guiding the listener into the teaching of interbeing, the deep truth that nothing exists alone. The ache of emptiness often feels sharpest when the mind imagines itself separate, cut off, isolated. But the Buddha taught that every being, every moment, is woven into the whole, like threads of a vast tapestry. Inhale. The body receives the air gifted by trees. Exhale. The breath returns to nourish them. Each cycle reveals connection. The lungs to the forest, the heart to the world, the listener to all that is. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting at the edge of a wide ocean. Waves rise and fall, each one distinct yet inseparable from the sea. A single wave may fear its end, but when it falls back into the ocean, it remembers. It was never apart, only a temporary form of something vast. The hollow inside begins to soften, no longer echoing with loneliness, but humming with quiet belonging. A Buddhist teaching arises. Thich Nhat Hanh spoke of interbeing as the truth that a cloud becomes rain, that rain becomes tea, that tea becomes the person who drinks it. Nothing stands alone. To see this is to understand that emptiness is not void, but fullness, filled with all that sustains it. A reflection surfaces. Some believe peace comes from standing apart, self-sufficient and unentangled. Others discover peace arises in connection, in recognizing that every breath, every heartbeat, every thought, rests within a vast web of life. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They wait that the hollow inside is not a prison of separation, but a doorway into boundless unity. The body responds with openness. The chest feels wide. The shoulders release. The breath grows expansive. The hollow no longer feels like absence. It feels like the sea itself, vast and alive, holding countless waves within. The narrator whispers, "Remember this truth of interbeing. You are not alone. Just breathe. It's safe to belong, drifting deeper now." The ocean spreads endlessly, moonlight shimmering on its surface, each wave glowing as part of the whole. The listener rests at its edge, no longer a solitary drop, but part of the living sea. And so, with interbeing as their refuge, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the embrace of the infinite. The breath deepens into long, soothing waves, guiding the listener into the practice of equanimity, the steady balance of the heart. Life brings both joy and sorrow, ease and struggle. The hollow inside grows sharp when the mind clings to joy or pushes away pain. Equanimity is the gentle middle, the calm center that holds all experiences without fear or grasping. Inhale. The body welcomes what is present. Exhale. The mind releases the need to control. Each breath becomes a soft reminder. This, too, can be held with calm. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting atop a mountain as weather passes. The sun rises warm upon the skin. Then clouds gather and rain falls. Then the air clears once more. The mountain does not resist the storm, nor cling to the sun. It simply remains, steady and vast. The hollow within begins to feel like this mountain, unmoved by passing moods, resting in quiet strength. A Buddhist teaching arises. Equanimity, or upekkha, is one of the four immeasurables. It is not indifference, but deep caring held in balance. With equanimity, the heart can love without being consumed, and endure without hardening. It allows joy to be fully felt, and pain to be gently held, both passing like clouds across the sky. A reflection surfaces. Some believe peace comes from avoiding sorrow altogether. Others know peace arises by meeting both sorrow and joy with the same steady heart. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow inside need not vanish. It can be embraced as part of the weather of being, passing through without defining the mountain itself. The body responds with stability. The chest feels grounded. The breath moves evenly. The shoulders settle deeply. The hollow no longer feels turbulent. It feels like sky, vast enough to hold storm and sunshine alike. The narrator whispers, "Remember this gift of equanimity. You are steady as the mountain. Just breathe. It's safe to allow, drifting deeper now." The mountain glows softly under moonlight, valleys stretching wide, clouds drifting gently. The listener rests here, realizing that the heart, like the mountain, can remain steady no matter what passes across its slopes. And so, With equanimity as their anchor, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the unshaken ground of balance. The breath flows with soft ease, like wind moving gently through tall grass, guiding the listener into the teaching of simplicity, the joy of enough. So much suffering grows from the restless urge to gather more, to build endlessly, to chase after what always slips away. Yet when the heart learns to rest in simplicity, the hollow within quiets, filled by the peace of sufficiency. Inhale, the body welcomes the sweetness of enough. Exhale, the mind releases the ache of endless wanting. Each breath becomes a gentle whisper. This moment is already whole. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a humble wooden hut nestled in the mountains. Inside, there is little: a cushion, a cup, a candle. Yet the space feels wide, uncluttered, serene. The window opens to the sound of birdsong, the scent of pine drifting in. Nothing is lacking, because nothing unnecessary weighs the spirit down. The hollow within begins to soften, as though it, too, has been cleared of clutter and made spacious. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha praised contentment, not poverty of spirit, but richness in simplicity. To live with enough is to free the heart from the chains of excess. When craving is quiet, gratitude blooms naturally, and joy shines more brightly in small things. A reflection surfaces. Some believe happiness lies in more wealth, more possessions, more praise. Others discover happiness shines in less, in simplicity, in lightness, in a heart unburdened. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow ache lessens when life is uncluttered, when gratitude fills the space where craving once lived. The body responds with ease. The chest feels lighter, the breath deeper, the shoulders soft. The hollow no longer feels like absence. It feels like a room freshly cleared, peaceful and inviting. The narrator whispers, "Remember the joy of simplicity. Enough is a blessing. Just breathe. It's safe to rest in less." Drifting deeper now. The hut glows warmly with candlelight, shadows flickering across wooden walls. The listener rests within its quiet, realizing that peace does not depend on abundance, but on simplicity, on the grace of enough. And so, with simplicity as their guide, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the spacious joy of a heart unburdened. The breath slows, long and steady, drawing the listener into the silence within. Beneath thought, beneath craving, beneath the noise of daily life, there is a stillness, vast, unshaken, and timeless. This silence is not emptiness in despair, but fullness in peace. The hollow within, when entered gently, becomes this sanctuary of quiet. Inhale, the body opens to calm. Exhale, the mind releases its restless hum. Each breath is like a doorway, carrying the listener deeper into silence. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines stepping into an ancient temple at night. Candles flicker softly, their flames steady in the still air. The stone walls hold centuries of silence, yet the quiet does not feel cold. It feels alive, like a soft embrace. At first, the silence seems overwhelming, almost too large. But as the listener breathes, it begins to cradle them, filling the hollow inside with its vast gentleness. A Buddhist teaching arises. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of awareness without distraction. In stillness, the mind sees clearly, like a pond reflecting the moon when no ripples disturb it. The Buddha often retreated into silence, not as escape, but as return, to listen to the deepest truths that words cannot reach. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence is loneliness, a void to be avoided. Others know silence is refuge, where the heart rests in safety and clarity. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They discover that the hollow within does not need filling with noise. It opens naturally into peace when silence is welcomed. The body responds with surrender. The chest softens, the shoulders fall, the breath lengthens. The hollow no longer feels restless. It feels like the temple itself, vast, sacred, and still. The narrator whispers, "Remember this silence within. It is not absence, but presence." Just breathe. It's safe to rest here, drifting deeper now. The temple glows faintly with candlelight, shadows stretching long and gentle across the floor. The listener rests within it, listening not to words, but to the quiet itself. The hollow within merges with this silence, revealing itself as fullness. And so, with the silence within as their refuge, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the calm that lies beneath all sound. The breath deepens into long, steady waves, guiding the listener toward the radiance of awareness itself, a light that has always been present, even when clouds of craving and sorrow pass overhead. Awareness is not something to be created. It is already here, luminous, clear, waiting to be recognized. Inhale. The body rests in clarity. Exhale. The mind releases distraction. Each breath becomes a lantern, revealing the quiet glow that is never left. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a dark forest. At first, shadows seem endless, and the path is uncertain. But then they notice a lantern in their hand, one that had been there all along. Its light falls gently across the trees, enough to see the next step. This is awareness, the steady glow within, always present, even when forgotten. The hollow inside begins to feel less like a void and more like a chamber lit by this inner flame. A Buddhist teaching arises. Awareness, or sati, is the foundation of liberation. It does not judge. It does not cling. It simply sees. The Buddha described the mind as luminous, obscured only by passing defilements. When those clouds drift away, the natural radiance shines forth. A reflection surfaces. Some believe awareness must be forced, created through effort. Others discover awareness is already here, needing only to be remembered. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow within is not empty of meaning. It is a space where awareness can shine unobstructed. The body responds with serenity. The chest feels lighter, the breath smooth, the shoulders soft. The hollow no longer feels dark. It glows quietly, steady as the lantern's light. The narrator whispers, "Remember this radiance of awareness. It was always yours. Just breathe. It's safe to shine, drifting deeper now." The forest fades into soft illumination, each tree bathed in gentle glow. The listener walks calmly, lantern steady in their hand, realizing the path was never truly dark. The light had always been within. And so, with the radiance of awareness revealed, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the luminous clarity of the mind. The breath flows in soft, unbroken waves, guiding the listener into the gentle reflection of walking the path daily. The teachings of the Buddha are not distant ideals reserved for temples or monasteries. They are meant for each moment, woven into the fabric of ordinary life. The hollow inside often grows when wisdom feels unreachable, but the truth is simple. The path is walked step by step, breath by breath, in daily living. Inhale. The body welcomes the rhythm of presence. Exhale. The mind releases the weight of perfection. Each breath becomes a step on the path, steady and close. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a small village at dawn. Life stirs gently. Doors creak open. The smell of rice steams in the air. Children's laughter echoes. Each act, no matter how ordinary, can be part of the path. A kind word spoken, a mindful breath before lifting a bowl, a pause to notice the sound of birdsong. The hollow within begins to soften, realizing that freedom is not found far away, but here, in the simplest of moments. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Eightfold Path is not a staircase climbed once to reach an end. It is a circle, a living rhythm, practiced in speech, action, work, effort, mindfulness, concentration, intention, and view. Each moment offers a chance to return, to begin again, to walk with awareness. A reflection surfaces. Some believe awakening must be sudden, dramatic, reserved for saints and sages. Others know awakening unfolds like dawn, slowly, softly, moment by moment. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that their daily life, however small, can be the ground of practice, and that each mindful step lessens the hollow ache within. The body responds with comfort. The chest feels open, the shoulders relax, the breath steadies. The hollow no longer feels unreachable. It feels like a companion that can be softened with daily kindness. The narrator whispers, "Remember, the path is walked each day. Just breathe. It's safe to begin again, drifting deeper now." The village awakens in morning light. each sound and movement woven with mindfulness. The listener walks among them, steady and calm, realizing that every step in daily life is already part of the journey. And so, with the truth of daily practice lighting their way, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the gentle rhythm of presence. The breath deepens, slow and steady, drawing the listener into the reflection of transforming suffering into wisdom. The hollow within Asura often feels like a wound, raw and painful. Yet the Buddha taught that suffering itself can be the very soil where wisdom grows. When met with awareness, pain becomes teacher. When embraced with compassion, struggle becomes path. Inhale. The body accepts the ache without fear. Exhale. The mind releases resistance. Each breath becomes an alchemy. Sorrow softening into insight, burden dissolving into strength. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines walking through a valley after heavy rain. At first, the ground is muddy, the air heavy, the path difficult. But as the sun rises, the wet earth glistens. Nourishing wildflowers that bloom brightly along the trail. What was once struggle becomes nourishment for beauty. In the same way, the hollow inside can give rise to understanding, patience, and compassion. A Buddhist teaching arises. The first noble truth does not end at acknowledging suffering. It opens the doorway to wisdom. Without the experience of loss, one might not value impermanence. Without restlessness, one might not seek stillness. Without longing, one might not discover peace in simplicity. Suffering becomes a lantern, illuminating the truths that free the heart. A reflection surfaces. Some believe suffering is punishment, something to be endured until it passes. Others discover suffering is teacher, a stern but compassionate guide that reveals what is real. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow inside is not only a wound, but also a seedbed for awakening. The body responds with gentleness. The chest feels warm. The breath slow and deep. The shoulders loose. The hollow no longer feels like a scar. It feels like fertile earth, capable of giving rise to wisdom and compassion. The narrator whispers, "Remember this truth. Suffering can teach. Just breathe. It's safe to learn." Drifting deeper now. The valley brightens as flowers spread across the hillsides, nourished by the very rains that once seemed burdensome. The listener rests in this sight, realizing that their own struggles too have watered the soil of growth. And so, with suffering transformed into wisdom, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the quiet strength of the path. The breath flows softly, like ripples across a calm lake, guiding the listener into the teaching of the lotus rising from the mud. Just as the lotus flower blooms pure and radiant above dark waters, so too can the human heart awaken from suffering, unsoiled by its origins. The hollow within, once heavy and murky, can become the very ground from which beauty and strength arise. Inhale, the body welcomes renewal. Exhale, the heart releases heaviness. Each breath becomes a petal unfolding, steady and serene. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting by a still pond at dawn. Beneath the surface, mud lies thick, heavy, dark. Yet from that very mud, slender stems rise upward, reaching for light. One by one, lotus blossoms open on the water, their petals luminous against the morning sky. The hollow inside begins to feel like this pond, not a place of despair, but of transformation. A Buddhist teaching arises. The Buddha himself spoke of the lotus as symbol of the path. Without mud, no lotus blooms. Without struggle, no wisdom matures. Suffering is not to be erased, but to be understood as the fertile ground of awakening. A reflection surfaces. Some believe the mud defines them, that hardship is permanent, staining the soul. Others discover the mud is only the condition, not the essence. It gives rise to purity, compassion, and strength. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow ache is not their identity. It is the soil from which the lotus of peace can blossom. The body responds with renewal. The breath deepens. The chest feels open. The shoulders soften. The hollow within no longer feels heavy. It feels fertile, alive with the potential of blossoming light. The narrator whispers, "Remember the lotus in the mud. Your suffering can bloom into beauty. Just breathe. It's safe to rise, drifting deeper now." The pond glows in morning light, blossoms spreading wide across its surface, untainted by the waters below. The listener rests here, surrounded by their quiet radiance, realizing that the hollow within holds the promise of awakening. And so, with the lotus as their guide, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the beauty that arises from struggle transformed. The breath deepens, unhurried and steady, carrying the listener into the reflection of wholeness of being. For so long, the hollow inside has whispered of incompleteness, of something missing, of something broken. Yet the Buddha's teaching reveals a softer truth. Wholeness is not something to be earned or added from outside. It is already here, beneath the layers of craving, fear, and illusion. Inhale. The body welcomes completeness. Exhale. The mind releases the story of lack. Each breath becomes a reminder. You are whole, just as you are. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines sitting by a still mountain lake at sunrise. The water is perfectly calm, reflecting the entire sky. Nothing is missing from its reflection. It holds clouds, peaks, light, and even the listener's own quiet form. The hollow within begins to feel like this lake, vast, reflective, already complete, even when thoughts once claimed otherwise. A Buddhist teaching arises. The true nature of mind is luminous, clear, and whole. It is not defined by passing emotions or the restless ache of longing. Just as clouds do not harm the sky, sorrow and fear do not break the mind's true nature. When illusions dissolve, wholeness is revealed as something that has always been present. A reflection surfaces. Some believe peace must be constructed, like building a house stone by stone. Others discover peace is uncovered, like revealing a sky that was always there behind clouds. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow ache does not mean they are incomplete. It only means they have not yet seen their own fullness. The body responds with serenity. The chest feels expansive. The shoulders soften. The breath flows naturally. The hollow inside no longer aches. It feels like an open sky, vast and complete, nothing lacking. The narrator whispers, "Remember your wholeness. You were never broken. Just breathe. It's safe to rest." Drifting deeper now. The lake glows with the rising sun, reflecting the world in perfect clarity. The listener rests at its shore, realizing that their being, like the lake, has always been whole. Nothing was missing, nothing ever lost. And so, with wholeness revealed, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the completeness of their own being. The breath flows in long, gentle waves, guiding the listener into the closing reflection, the final rest in freedom. The path has unfolded like a lantern-lit journey, step by step, revealing suffering, its causes, its release, and the way beyond. Now the listener is invited to rest fully, no longer searching, no longer striving, simply dwelling in the calm of freedom. Inhale. The heart opens to spacious ease. Exhale. The mind releases the last threads of clinging. Each breath becomes an arrival, a return, a homecoming. The imagery unfolds. The listener imagines a vast meadow beneath the night sky. Soft grass cradles the body. Stars shimmer like countless lanterns above, and the air is cool, fresh, serene. There is nothing missing here, nothing incomplete. The hollow inside, once restless and aching, now feels like this meadow, wide, open, endless, holding everything without fear. A Buddhist teaching arises. Freedom, or nibbana, is the cooling of the fire, the end of clinging, the peace that arises when craving ceases. It is not distant, not unreachable, but present in every moment the mind lets go. This freedom is gentle, natural, woven into the breath itself. A reflection surfaces. Some believe awakening is a distant goal, far away at the end of countless lifetimes. Others discover awakening is here, in this very breath, in this letting go. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that freedom is not the end of the journey, but the nature of the path itself. The body responds with deep surrender. The chest feels open, the breath unhurried, the limbs heavy and safe. The hollow no longer exists as an ache. It has dissolved into spacious calm, as though it was never separate from freedom at all. The narrator whispers, Remember this final rest in freedom. You are whole. You are safe. Just breathe. It's safe to let go, drifting deeper now. The meadow glows softly under starlight, silence vast yet tender. The listener lies in stillness, the breath weaving gently with the rhythm of night. There is no searching, no clinging, only presence, only peace. And so, with the final rest in freedom, the listener drifts deeper, carried into the embrace of sleep, held by the vastness of being itself. The breath slows into the softest rhythm now. Each inhale, a tender arrival. Each exhale, a gentle release. The journey has carried the listener through the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and the gentle reflections of the Buddha's wisdom. What once began as a hollow ache has been softened, seen, and transformed into spacious calm. Now, at the end of the path, there is no more seeking, only resting, only peace. The imagery settles. The listener imagines lying beneath a vast night sky, stars scattered like silver dust across the darkness. The ground beneath is soft and steady, cradling the body as though the earth itself whispers comfort. A cool breeze brushes lightly across the skin, carrying the fragrance of grass and distant blossoms. Everything feels safe. Everything feels complete. The narrator's voice moves slowly, leaving long silences between phrases. You have walked far tonight, through suffering, through craving, through silence, through release, and here you are, resting at the threshold of freedom. Nothing more is needed. Nothing more is missing. The path rests now, and so can you. The body responds with deep surrender. Shoulders melt into the surface below, arms and legs grow heavy. The chest rises and falls with effortless rhythm. The breath is no longer something to guide. It moves on its own, steady and natural, like a lullaby sung by the body itself. A reflection arises softly. Some say peace comes from arrival at a distant place. Others know peace is discovered here, now, in the release of striving. The listener leans into this truth. They see that freedom is not a faraway destination, but a quiet presence that has always been within. The words grow softer still, like a whisper in candlelight. It's safe to let go, safe to drift, safe to rest in the wholeness of your being. The silence widens between sentences, giving space for the listener's breath to deepen, for the body to sink into rest. The stars above seem to shimmer more slowly, their light stretching across the sky like threads of calm. The hollow inside has dissolved completely, revealed a spaciousness, a field where peace blooms like wildflowers, unforced and abundant. The narrator's voice fades into a final lullaby of reassurance. Just breathe. You are free. The journey rests now, and so can you. Sweet dreams. And with those final words, the meditation closes. The listener drifts effortlessly into sleep, carried by the rhythm of breath, by the embrace of silence, by the boundless calm of freedom itself. End of script. Sweet dreams.